I'm sure we all know that feeling, looking fantastic in the mirror, only to feel disappointed by a photo. Sometimes it's to the point where you literally think you're delusional and you just say to yourself, do I actually look like that? This happens all the time, and for me, it was honestly an everyday occurrence at the gym. I remember I would have an insane pump, thinking I literally looked like a Greek god, only to be devastated when someone would take a photo of me and it would look like I had never lifted before, with the lack of symmetry and proportion. I know we can all relate to this, and honestly, if you say no, you're lying. But I've come to tell you that we're not crazy. There is an actual scientific explanation for this, and that is reflection. You see, when you are looking in the mirror, you are seeing a flipped version of yourself. You're not actually seeing your true self. So basically, I've come to the conclusion that we're all ugly. Okay, no, I'm just kidding, but basically, if you have a beauty mark and you look yourself in the mirror and you see it on the left side of your face, other people are going to be seeing that mark on your right side. Almost everyone I have met thinks they look better in the mirror than on camera. And the reason for this is actually simple. We see ourselves in the mirror several times a day, so our brains are more used to how we think we should look based on the mirror, that when we finally do see ourselves on camera, we begin to question life. Also, when you look in the mirror, you're usually moving, you're adjusting posture, and making facial expressions to create a pleasing appearance. But in a single frame picture, you usually don't have the luxury of multiple frames to choose from. This makes it much harder to find a photo where you look good. So even if you were to replicate those postures and gestures, more often than not, you will find that you don't look good. Another reason why you might think you look worse in pictures is because you actually are really ugly. Okay, no, I'm kidding. All jokes aside, it's because we are honestly hypercritical of ourselves. We try and look for our faults because we know ourselves better than anyone. So we tend to criticize every little detail, even though more often than not, no one else notices the same things you do. You have certain expectations of how you think you should look based on what you saw in the mirror. So when those expectations aren't met, you're probably the first to notice. But in reality, no one else sees us like we do. So instead of noticing every little detail about us, people see us as a whole rather than analyzing us piece by piece. So that pimple you think really stands out, or that little hair sticking up at the side of your head that you're so worried about, usually goes unnoticed. Actually, I've noticed more often than not that people never picked up on these details until I called them out, and then they can't unsee it anymore. This often happens when people tell me about their insecurities as well. Most of the time, it's just you who notices these things, so calling attention to them ends up making it worse. I still remember the day a girl I was talking to told me how she didn't like her nose. I honestly thought her nose always looked fine because I was looking at the whole picture. I wasn't focused on one little detail. But ever since she called attention to it, I always noticed from that point on. So at the end of the day, you're going to look somewhere in between what you are seeing in the mirror and what you see in pictures. If you want to see what the real you looks like, the closest thing you will get to that will be the front-facing camera on your iPhone. This is probably only going to work with the camera application though, because I'm pretty sure apps like Instagram or Snapchat just capture a reflection of your image, so it won't be accurate. If you're still feeling insecure after all this about how you look, the only real advice I can give you is simply to just take more photos or be on camera more often. That way your brain will become more familiarized with how you look on camera. For me personally, starting this YouTube channel greatly helped me with this. I constantly had to be on camera to record a new video every week, that after a few weeks of recording, I even began to prefer how I looked on camera in some instances. You really just need to remember that it's a matter of habit. Anyways, that just about wraps up the video. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn post notifications on. And as always, make sure to make yourself a priority.